welcome to Inside Magazine. I'm David Matlin here in the Jaffa Port of Israel. Well, next January 27th, like every year, the world will commemorate the Jewish Holocaust, or Shoah as it's known. A special day to remember and to prevent crimes against humanity will again take place. A day where many acts of remembrance emphasize the need to be aware of the recent acts of aggression and anti-Semitic attacks. The educational system in France, for example, promotes that students reflect about this period of history. To teach the Shoah in schools, which many call a moral obligation, is not done in many countries. Among those countries, there's one that for many years didn't make its Arab students learn this period of history where 6 million Jews were exterminated. This country is Israel. Until 2011, the Israeli Ministry of Education didn't provide any material about the Shoah in the Arabic language. It was not obligatory to teach this history in the Arab schools of the country. Ultimately deemed a mistake, it was fixed in recent years. Teaching the Shoah has allowed many Israeli Arabs to learn the history of the Jewish people in a region where conflicts are part of everyday life and where it's not so simple to take the view of the other. This was a great step towards possible reconciliation between the two sides. The Shoah, a path to reconciliation between Arabs and Jews. A report by Yoel Lieberman for I-24 News.
If I came to school and discriminated between students, how would they feel? What would you feel in this situation? A stranger, excellent. I was born in this country, and I feel like a stranger. I don't exist. Let's talk about the period of Hitler's rise to power. Which year? 1933. If we look at Nuremberg laws, what are the main laws that are discriminatory? They interfere in the personal life, in personal choices like who to marry. Religious, economic, social, and cultural aspects were transformed into a peak of racism once Hitler took power.
Unlike their parents and their grandparents, the actual and the future generations of Israeli Arabs will learn about the Holocaust. Since 2011, the Holocaust has become part of the mandatory curriculum. Since 2014, it's even been one of the themes presented at the A level. Hiam Tanous is an Israeli Arab from Haifa. She's in charge of the education counselors at the Ministry of Education. To her, teaching about the Holocaust is much more than a simple history lesson.
It's impossible that you live in a nation that you don't know. You can't keep on living with these people and understand. Without trust between the two nations, it's impossible to achieve normalization between Jew and Arab in the country. Since I was born, I've heard about the Holocaust, but because we have heard and did not understand exactly, it also created resistance. There were rumors that it did not really happen. It's impossible, it's a bluff, so they will have a reason to come to Israel. There were so many rumors like this.
Personally, as a history teacher, I don't teach the subject as historical facts only, but I myself, I'm touched and feel compassion for this nation, which has suffered so much. A mother that has 2 children needs to choose one of them because she needs to give one of them away. What is the feeling that any person who has feelings and a heart and has feelings towards others, what can we feel? We use real events and personal stories, and through these personal stories and the point of view of these people, we give the kids examples of things that can touch them. The closer you get to the events, the more empathy you can feel towards others. How did they describe the Jews here? There's a very important word.
They were hated and discriminated against. They weren't even classified as an ethnic group, but as a separate type of race.
Excellent.
We, as Arabs, also belong to the Semitic ethnicity, because Jews and Arabs both belong to the Semitic ethnic group. If we had lived in Germany during those times, what happened to the Jews could have happened to us too.
This is a caricature that describes how Jews lived inside Germany in the period of Hitler when he ran the Nazi regime. What is important for us is to educate our school children using these messages within a social context.
Dr. Tabit Abu Ras is a geopolitics professor at the Ben Gurion University. He's the head of the Abraham Fund, and like his Jewish and Muslim colleagues, he has no doubt about the two peoples will only be able to coexist if each knows the history and the suffering of the other.
In the Palestinian street, people do not know enough about the Holocaust. We live in one country, and we are part of Israeli society. So it's important that we know the history of the Jews here in Israel. I was one of the academics who organized the trip. We thought it's very important that Jews and Arabs, Muslims and Christians, and Jew will go together to experience that and connect to the pain of the Jews in Auschwitz. I think that every Arab should visit Auschwitz and learn. Every human being, not only Arabs.
We were 300 people, 150 Arabs and 150 Jews. A 3-day trip after emotional preparation and mutual listening. And here in Israel, there was a war. Many Arabs told us, "Why are you going to touch the pain of the Jews? Come and see our pain." But we said that we go for touching the pain of the other while putting our own pain aside, and we have to listen to the pain of the other side. I came back from that trip. I was sick in bed. I was turned from the inside. I started to think over after I was there, seeing the horror, the inhumanity, how a human can do something like that to another human.
But there seems to still be a long road ahead, and even in moments of harmony, the everyday reality reemerges as if to challenge the very will to take a step toward the other.
It's good that we went. I had many experiences from that trip. One of the most difficult experiences I had in that trip is to see that in the airport they have separated between Jews and Arabs, for checking the Arabs with more rigor than the Jews. That is an experience I will never forget. And all of that while the delegation's goal of the trip was with a measure of peace and mutual understanding, and to get connected to the pain of the other side, which happened to be the Jews.
In spite of the obstacles, it's very clear for the people organizing these events, all young Israeli citizens should travel to Auschwitz.
احنا مثلا في المجتمع العربي احنا بنلاقي انه في عندنا هناك عدم وجود هاي الرحلات التعليميه لطلاب.
We feel that in the Arab sector, there's a lack of educational visits, of students going to Poland to see the camps and ghettos, while we see that in the Jewish sector it's frequent.
احنا في الوسط اليهودي هي متوفره وموجوده.
Agreement is still needed on the objective of these trips. Professor Tabit Abu Ras is calling on the Ministry of Education. To him, they should pay very close attention so that the lessons taught by this dark period of human history are not perverted in any way.
In the delegation organized by the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Culture, I think that the Israeli youth come back more nationalistic, and this is not the goal. I think the goal is that people will come back from that trip more humanistic, will understand better what happened to the Jews, and to prevent such events from happening again. It's important that people will come back with messages of tolerance, and not with nationalist emotions, like what is happening with today's Israeli delegations.
For Israeli Arabs who did not get the chance to travel to Poland or to learn about the Holocaust in school, lawyer Khalid Hassab Mahmoud decided a few years ago to open in Nazareth the first Arab institute for the research and teaching of the Holocaust, a vocation that goes back to Khalid's childhood.
My father was expelled. His father's house was destroyed, and he's today in al-Fahim. When I was 5 or 6, he used to say, "We, the Palestinians, we are not the Nazis. Why do they do it to us? We are not the Nazis. I'm not Hitler. Why do the Jews do it to me?" I have heard this sentence. When I was at the Hebrew University, we had to prepare a seminar. So I proposed to do my work about the Jewish Holocaust in Europe. So the professor, after the lesson, called me outside and asked, "Why do you want to do your work about the Holocaust? You're an Arab." But I wanted to get to the truth. What is the problem between the Jews and us? To understand the other, the Holocaust exists. Think about it. Do not deny it. Do not deny it. I've printed this booklet in Arabic. It reads, "The Holocaust Against Jews in Germany and Europe." I used to go to checkpoints and distribute it to Palestinians there. If they want the Arab politicians to get an agreement, they have to put the Holocaust in their minds.
Knowing the history of the Jews and acknowledging their suffering is a necessary step towards coexistence and peace in the area, something that seems absolutely necessary according to all the Israeli Arabs we met. However, for them, talking about the Holocaust and the reasons why it should be taught always leads to the same issue: reciprocity.
I think it's important that the Arabs would mention Holocaust Day, as they want to see the Jews connected to their pain. Here I want to mention the Nakba. While I think there is nothing to compare between both events, the Nakba is, after all, a local trauma that the Palestinians experienced in 1948, which needs to be mentioned and studied, also within the Jewish population. It would be good for Jewish-Arab relations. It's good for majority and minority relations in the State of Israel.
Nakba is the Arabic word for disaster, one of the most central historical events of the Palestinian narrative. Between 1946 and 1949, during the conflicts surrounding the creation of the Israeli state, between 500 and 700,000 Palestinians were evicted from their villages and had to flee, some to the neighboring Arab countries, a segment of history that is still not taught in the Israeli history school books and, as such, a very sensitive and controversial issue for some of the Israeli Jewish citizens.
I understood the need of the Jews to have a state. I'm also connected to what happened to me here as an Arab. It's true that there was the Holocaust, but I don't feel good. My state was taken. It's my people. Jews killed Arabs. It is very complex. But you have got to get to a place where enough about you or me, enough about you took from me, enough. I forgave when I came back from Auschwitz. I forgave.
So what do we understand here? That from that point the final solution started, the ethnic cleansing in various ways: burning, killing, transfers in gas trucks and the extermination camps. In which some 6 million Jews were killed.
Humanity has to stay above economy, politics, above everything in the world. Also regarding our problems, we shouldn't leave our humanity aside. On the contrary, we have to let it guide us towards finding solutions to our problems together, to see each other as myself.
4 years ago, the Israeli state made the decision to include the Holocaust in the Arab schools' mandatory curriculum. a decision that allowed thousands of young Israeli Arabs to acknowledge the worst atrocity in human history. But even if steps seem to be taken toward a rapprochement between the two peoples, only the future will tell if history's lessons were enough to solve today's conflicts.
It's very important not to live on victimization. Victimization exists also among the Palestinians, and it's very strong. To get towards peace and historic reconciliation, both sides, the Jews and the Palestinians, have to pass the step from victimization to hope.
And that's all for this episode of Inside Magazine here at I-24 News, brought to you from the Jaffa Port in Israel. I'm David Matlin.